So we clearly see this difference between the state of the art, which can get people excited, but what really sticks with the user.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are just many new aspects. Like one is the thinking, which we already talked about, and this is entirely new. And also, I think that it is just like much larger scale than before.
I think that, to be honest, like when we launched the first image generation model, when you see an image's output, what are the things you're hoping usually? What is the things you want to edit from it, and what is the controls you wish you had?
I would say my biggest friction point right now is having a workspace, because my content goes on LinkedIn, on Substack, on Instagram, on YouTube, and I want to make sure that my branding is consistent on all the platforms. Plus, my content is more around the technical side than the creative side.
Yeah, I'm curious, Alex, like, do you think that, without revealing any of the secret stuff that we're working on, do you think we can get to a world where people can make smaller edits without having to, like, change and spend so many tokens?
Hi everyone, today I'm super excited to be here at the OpenAI office. I have two really amazing folks with me. Abhi leads the product team here, and Alex is a researcher on the image team. I'm going to be picking their brains, everything about their image gen model, the Image 2.0 product, everything from the use case to maybe you guys share some tricks and tips on how people can use the model really well for themselves. And we'll also get into the technical details about how they are thinking about building this. So Abhi, I think we'll start with this question, right? Like, when the Images first version of the model came out, everyone was going crazy. I was one of the persons who was like just building Ghiblified pictures of pretty much everything that I had hold of. And soon that trend did fall down because people were not as obsessed about creating it in that particular format. So we clearly see this difference between the state of the art, which can get people excited, but what really sticks with the user. So what would you guys say are the use cases which really stuck with people?
Yeah, so thank you for being here, and thanks for doing this. I think you're completely right that we've had an image generation. Since we've launched the first image generation product, it's been like over a year now. And over the course of the product being in the world, it's been fascinating to see how people have used it, because we could not have predicted some of the trends that have come out, right? We don't know, and it's been interesting. And I think you rightly pointed out that what I would say is that the initial phase of image generation 1 to some extent to 1.5, we saw a lot of this like people finding these really cool viral trends, right? And every couple of weeks, it was like a different trend. And in many different ways, it was actually seeing different trends in different countries pop up, which was very interesting for us to see internally. But what I think that Images 2.0 unlocks is going from here's a fun photo I can share with my friends to this is actually a tool that I hope creators, businesses, and others can rely on to create high fidelity outputs that they can use regularly. And I think that's sort of the delta between what is a fun trend to what is a tool that you can use on a regular basis. The former is something that people use for a bit, but how many images of a trend are you actually going to be able to create? It's when you can bring it into your daily workflow and use it regularly. I think it's like the needle mover. I'm curious what Alex thinks about this as well, but to me, there's been a few things that I've seen have been interesting. First, and this is something we actually focused on improving, is infographics. Mm-hmm. We see that a lot of users, especially in East Asia, like Japan and Korea, there was a lot of use of infographics, both for like work purposes. Like instead of creating a slide, I might use image generation to create an infographic, right? And that has been a really cool workflow that we've actually used internally as well. So that's one. Another one that I've seen a few times is for advertisements. Mm-hmm. So we've seen a lot of creators and businesses, and especially small businesses, who are not able to afford hiring a full agency, want to run an ad on social media, advertising their product, or showing a menu of here's the things that you can eat at my Japanese izakaya, are now able to use image generation. So those are the things that stuck out to me as like cool examples. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also a lot of personal photo editing. I think it has gotten good enough that a lot of people are just using it for their own photos.
Yeah, and to this point, we've seen a lot of interesting use cases here as well, like people taking their photos, and there's like the V1 of edit it, put it into this format, increase the definition, reduce the definition, but the creative ones have been like the mini-me trend, or show me like I was a 5-year-old, show me like I'm an 80-year-old. So it's like interesting seeing the where people have been pushing this. Yeah.
And I 100% agree on the infographic part because that's one of the things I use it for, like for most part. I feel with any image model, there is a spectrum of how creative it can get, where I can ask it to generate mythical creatures. I can ask it to generate really creative objects or visuals or scenery, and it can go really hyper realistic on that. And the other spectrum is this infographic, where you're not just thinking about like the pixel level colors and creativity, but you're actually thinking about technical depth and accuracy and going from what a user asked for. For example, I have done infographics, which is like, what is RAG? Okay. And it picks up that terminology. It understands based on my history of the conversation with ChatGPT, the way I like to explain things, the analogy that I like to use. Like I use this open book exam a lot. It's able to pick all of that information and tie it together to create an infographic, which is not just technically accurate, but it is actually very aesthetically good to look at. And I can add more details about my brand colors. So I feel there's like two different spectrums of what you can do with an image model. I would like to understand, like from the technical perspective, like how did you guys approach this in Image 2.0?
I think the question is like, how did you maybe bring in the reasoning into the images model so that it could do some of this high fidelity knowledge worker stuff as well?
Yeah, I guess this is just something entirely new because previously the image model just took some basically prompt, and instead of that, now it can think by itself. It can also use tools like do searches, use your memory. It can also look at uploaded files, and it can generate multiple images and as needed, or even like correct itself.
Is it fair to say that, like, yeah, I'm curious how you would articulate this. Is it fair to say that we've gone from like just looking at prompt to straight away generating the image to now going from prompt to seeing if we need to invoke reasoning, invoke tools, access memory, and then generate image afterwards? Is that the right thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a different kind of model than we had before.
Cool.
And another like interesting thing that we were looking at, right? Like this is just an example character that I created, which looks like a Mario-inspired me character. And if you could see, it's not entirely generating, I wouldn't know, like if it's entirely generating a new image, but if I ask it to positionally change a few things, it just goes in and just changes those things instead of changing anything around it. So which is very like positional image generation to some extent. So I'm curious, like what was like state of the art here?
So I think we simply have some training to make it more stable over like multiple edits, but otherwise it is like just generating a new image.
Got it. What would you say is like the difference in the mindset of how you thought about creating the image 1 versus image 2? Because personally I've tried a lot of different tools, and what I've been able to create with images 2 is unmatched to all the other tools that I've used, and very unbiased opinion, right? That's something which I'm also like very surprised, because one of the other things that I was testing out is for my comics, I do this AI with Ash Comics, and I can generate multiple images in one prompt, which is very much of a time saver for me. Plus the character consistency across different frames is very accurate. So I'm very curious, like what was your state of the art for like building something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are just many new aspects. Like one is the thinking, which we already talked about, and this is entirely new. And also, I think that it is just like much larger scale than before. And as we know, like scaling up these models makes them better in many ways, and there are many emergent capabilities, like these like very dense text rendering and diagrams and stuff.
Yeah, and to add to that, first of all, like Alex, I give huge kudos to Alex and the team on building such a fantastic model that all of us love. And I mean, it's more than the users. Like the eval results were kind of insane. It's the first time I've seen such a big jump from whatever the other latest benchmark was to this. It's like we've blown out of the park. So all kudos to the team on all the hard work that they did there. I think that, to be honest, like when we launched the first image generation model, we did not have a great prior of how we would expect users to use it. Right? Prior to that, we had DALL-E, which was like, I would say, a much earlier evolution and wasn't able to be used. And I think over the course of building the model and building the product, we have learned from users and what is the directions you want to take it. And I think that the way you articulated this as well is like there's sort of the use case of the fun, edit my photo, I've uploaded something and change it around. And I think that we definitely saw that initially. And then we started seeing people like yourself or creators trying to push the boundaries of this tool, trying to create regular work outputs, trying to take it in a photo and edit it again and again and again. And in some ways, we realized that that wasn't working well, right? And those workflows were not great then. I still wouldn't say it's perfect. I'm sure you have a lot of feedback there. But I think that's what we were optimizing for, which is how do we go from doing the basic photo editing to actually making this a productivity tool for people. And you can break it out into like a few elements. One is being able to reference relevant context. So searching, as Alex has mentioned, it can search, it can reason on things, it can understand, like here's the kinds of things, like if I'm asking it to create a map, here's like what the world looks like. You can reference your files and your memory, which is like really awesome for someone who's like a regular chat user. And then the other thing, which Alex was referencing, was like the steerability here. So we want to be able to allow users to give it fine-grained edits and do that. And that is both a model innovation, but also, as you can see in the product and the phone, you can go click an image on your phone, hit edit, select a specific area, say that you want this aspect ratio. And so these are really designed with like the goal of helping creators like yourself getting these more precise edits.
Actually, let's try that out, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about, let's just go and select in a specific portion of this. So we'll go ahead and say that that part of my hand should make it downwards.
It's a fun
Let's
image.
just try doing that.
Yeah, while I was doing it, I'm curious from your perspective. I think what I've learned from creators is that no one is expecting to zero shot a final output, right? You're hopefully getting to something that's like X% there and going that. When you see an image's output, what are the things you're hoping usually? What is the things you want to edit from it? And what is the controls you wish you had?
I would say my biggest friction point right now is having a workspace, because my content goes on LinkedIn, on Substack, on Instagram, on YouTube, and I want to make sure that my branding is consistent on all the platforms. Plus, my content is more around the technical side than the creative side. So that used to be my biggest pain point.
Yeah.
And I had a huge infographic team who would just help me with building these infographics, or even like for the workshops that I conduct, like help me with technical flowcharts that goes in the slide, because it was almost an impossible task. And that was one of like the biggest unlocks for me, which is like now I can do this very precise thing, even go from like a mermaid diagram to create something which is really aesthetically pleasing that I can insert into my slides. The friction point that I have is I have to do it in a completely different app and copy it across like multiple different tools before it's like ready for me to use it.
Yeah, and just thinking out loud, and Alex, feel free to ask as well, like we're taking feedback from you as we go, so we think about what we should be doing. When you say you want a workspace, what else would you want that workspace to have?
Something similar to Figma, right? Where my team can collaborate in the same space, where I can see that here are all the copies of the previous version of the Substack thumbnails all in one place, and we can see how that consistently goes down from, say, what we're doing in a Substack blog to if I'm creating the same version as a YouTube video, how we can like keep that branding and content consistent across like different channels. So it's more around like having that access to all the visuals in one place and making it more of a collaborative space where my AI engineers can look at it, my intern can look at it, my creative team can look at it. That's probably one of the areas. So my workflow right now is exporting things from here and keeping it out on Figma or Canva.
Cool. Let's see how it did. What was your prompt again?
Make it go down.
Make it go down. Like, I wasn't even sure if I was explaining it correctly. It did.
Nice.
It did.
And it
also,
didn't get rid of your
backfilled-
hand right now.
No, it actually like put my hand down and it backfilled the image pixels on the background, which is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
What are that's awesome that it worked. What are things you've tried that have not worked well for you?
Have not worked well for me. That's going to be a hard question.
That's good to know that most things are working well, but I'm genuinely curious.
Most things are working really well. I would say sometimes it's like the nitty gritty of what I want in the infographic, because if my infographic is like really detailed, it has like 7 different subsections to it, and I want to just like change one word there. I don't feel like I want to burn enough tokens to like regenerate that entire image just to like fix that one thing. And that's why I was telling you that, hey, like right now if it had the edit interface right onto the platform, but I can like, just for this image, right, like if I can just go in and be like, I want to delete this coin. I don't want to like go ahead and like burn the entire set of tokens to regenerate the image, but I can just click on this and be like, hey, just delete this. So that's more of like an editing feature rather than like image generation edit feature.
And just, is your main concern when you say burn your tokens, is your concern cost, or is it like latency that it takes
Cost.
too long? Got it. So you want to be able to have a fine-grained edit without generating a new image, basically.
Yeah, and it just creates a replica, right? Like even in this case, if I just click on this and I say remove coin, it's going to create a whole new image. So I still have the copy of the old image and I have a new image. So this, when I look at from the images tab, there's like 20 different images that I have to like filter through and be like, oh, what was the final one that I wanted to use?
Yeah, I'm curious, Alex, like, do you think that, without revealing any of the secret stuff that we're working on, do you think we can get to a world where people can make smaller edits without having to like change and spend so many tokens?
I think there are some challenges to this, but I think it might be possible.
Cool.
Might be possible.
Yeah, maybe stay tuned.
I'll wait for that. I'll
Yeah.
definitely wait for that. And I think one of the other interesting things that I've been observing, right? Like over these years, any type of model has seen several leaps. Every time it feels like, hey, this is the best an image model can be. Like, what else could you really make out of an image model? We have seen that happening with text models. We have seen that happening with video models, where now, like, the Turing test of a video model was that, hey, can it produce gymnastics? And now it can. Same was for the image model, where there was like, can you actually produce readable, legible text correctly? Now it can. What do you think is like your next venture? What are you guys like heads down on that? Hey, this is probably still a gap. We're still like maybe 90% there, but there's like, this last mile perfection that we can get.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think there's just still a little bit of uncannyness or imperfection in the infographics. And like, I think it's not always that it's just usable. It's maybe like more than 50% now, but I think to get it to 100% is like quite, may take a lot more scaling or something. So I think in some sense it's just making things like perfect in one shot. And I guess in another axis is like basically extending this kind of thinking. Like I think part of why like we added this thinking with image gen, we kind of want kind of agentic image generation, similar to like codecs for coding and text. Maybe in images we can also have something that is a designer by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Alex covered it very well. I would say that that is a great answer to the model side. On the product side, it's exactly the things you were talking about, which is this tool is probably, in my opinion, pretty good for any hobbyist, but for any serious creator like yourself, there's not only how good can we make the model, but then what are the product integrations that we can make to make you feel like you have a creative workspace. You can do everything in one and then pull in the context from other places. So that's like high level of the things that I think we're thinking about is how do we better serve people like you?
That's lovely. I would like to include this as a step in my Codex skill automation, where it's like it auto produces a thumbnail and insert it right directly into my Substack, so I don't have to do that as a manual step.
I was actually going to ask, how is have you used Codex plus ImageGen? How's that?
I have used it, but it doesn't work on the automation part. So if I have to use it as part of the skill, which is like a multi-step approach, it doesn't do it. It's just like one shot just to produce images. That's something it does. I've used it via Atlas as well. So that's my browser. It's not part of the pipeline yet.
Cool. Okay, that's good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. But I love the fact that you could generate like infinite possibility of aspect ratios, which is just insane. Yeah, my next quest is going to be updating my YouTube banner. So I'm going to play around with it and see how creative it can get.
In the banner, do you have like, is it both image and text?
It's going to be image and text. And I don't want it to just follow my lead on producing something that I feel is right.
Yeah.
I am not a social media expert. So what I would like it to do is figure out what's the right format, what is trending, what would really get people's attention for my YouTube banner, do that reasoning, and then come up with the right structure and then actually build it out.
On this thing, just using your example right here, what are the other things you've tried in doing like fine editing? So we looked at this example of like selecting a specific area. Have you tried like removing things, changing aspect ratio? So
I did. So changing aspect ratio is something I just did right here, is because the avatar videos that I'm creating is both for landscape as well as portrait videos. So I asked it to produce like 2 different aspect ratios. This is the landscape version and this is the 16:9. So just created both of them in one go, which is pretty cool.
Any other quick tools you would want?
Let's see.
Well, I was asking like in this
You want to try out the banner thing?
Yeah, I mean you can try it out.
Want to try it out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's try
do
it.
that.
See if it does it.
Let me just save this back on. Let's actually add a new image. Let's do that. I even like created, I don't know, for my YouTube 100K, I created the scribbles.
Interesting. And when you usually do this, do you upload an image from where?
From my phone.
Okay.
Sometimes from my laptop, depending on like where I'm using it from. So this image that you're seeing right here, it's not something that my creative team has built out. So my creative team gets with, like creating their own thumbnail.
Yeah.
But there are some videos that I upload which is off schedule. It's like unfiltered thoughts. And then I'm like, shoot, I don't have a cover for this. And my team is probably asleep right now. So I just like upload a picture, like a headshot of me and be like, here is a reference thumbnail. So it auto-infers the text. It auto-infers like the color theme and everything. And it recreates.
And it does it well?
Just builds. Yeah.
Very cool.
It actually does it. Let's see how it does.
Cool. While just doing this, what other questions can we help answer? Like reception of model images 2.0 worldwide, we can do that one. We can talk about the initial moment and how we went through that one. Like what was our
initial moment?
Like when we both joined and that was happening, we were sharing our stories. I don't know how much that is interesting to your audience. So we can do that.
So both of you have been here for a year.
Yeah.
Right.
About.
Yeah. So he joined. You said you joined the day that the new model came out.
It's March 25th.
Yeah.
Nice.
A day that remembers in history.
We should pick that up. And I'll probably ask you this, right? I'm not going to say like Ghiblification again, but I feel there is a very different sentiment of how people perceive a good image and model. I'm not going to say this on camera because it can be controversial, but I feel like a lot of the people who feel threatened by the image and model are creative professionals, even though these models are built to make their V1 faster and easier, but they're the first to feel threatened. Same is the case, I feel like, with every professional, right? Like the best coding model is threatening to software engineers out there.
Yeah.
So I'll probably like ask you the sentiment of non-creatives perceiving the model versus creatives perceiving the model.
Okay, cool. We can try answering.
You can go as unfiltered as you would like it to be.
Okay, how to do it?
That's not the right aspect ratio. Data insights, AI impact. Okay.
Did he get how was the text rendering? Is it like the thumbnail?
Text rendering is good. I liked how it did like a seamless gradient between the picture and the rest of the thumbnail. Which is good.
I guess the banners, it should be, what's the aspect ratio?
It's like a really, really thin and long aspect ratio.
Okay, so you didn't specify the aspect?
I didn't specify. I
and
just
you
said
expected
YouTube
it to
banner.
pick the YouTube aspect ratio and it did not?
No.
I think YouTube normally has 16:9, but a banner should be something very long. I think the
This is
maximum.
the thumbnail
Yeah, maximum we can do is 3:1. Yeah, I think I actually kind of added some training to make it follow aspect ratios, and maybe
interesting.
YouTube
Did not pick it
YouTube
up.
thumbnail is actually supposed to be 16:9. Maybe it
Yep.
leaks.
Just went ahead and did that. Let's probably give a follow-up to that.
Mm.
That's not quite the right aspect ratio for a YouTube banner. I want you to rebuild the thumbnail. Also use my brand colors, which you typically know I use. Let's see if it's able to pick up something from the memory.
And the brand colors here are ones that you have used with image
I've
generation.
used with image generation, and I've used otherwise as well, like even for building my skill. Like I use a skill creator, and the skill creator has that context.
Interesting.
So let's see if it's able to pick it up. I mean, like it very well could. So while this is happening, I would like to get your perspective on how you've seen creatives versus non-creatives react to image and model. I feel I'm a non-creative person. If I have to do this by myself, it'll probably like take me 8 hours. So for me, I'm like, wow, it just saves me so much time. But creatives might see it differently. It might be a little not threatening, but like it might seem like, hey, like is it gonna like take away what I'm doing? Is it gonna like take away my mode? So what's your perspective on how you've seen this being perceived?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's interesting what is the definition of a creator, because you say you're not a creative person, yet to me you are a creator, right? So it's like, it's interesting, it's like, where do you draw that line? When the model came out, we did like a few previews with a bunch of like creators and like to get their in reaction. I remember I was actually in India when around the time they came out, and we gave a little bit of a preview, and I felt like it was the creators who were the most excited by it, because most creators were like, I spend a lot of time today doing things that I don't enjoy in doing the fine-tune edits, and they felt like the real value they're bringing is the idea, and the fine execution they were fine to delegate to others.
I'm probably going to rephrase this.
Yeah.
Because I feel when I say creative professional, here's the thing, right? Like right now I have like 4 people on my brand and creatives team.
Yeah.
Just 4 of them.
Yeah.
If I had to do the exact same volume of stuff that I'm doing right now, 5 years ago, it would have probably been like 20 people in that team.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about creative professionals, I'm not talking about a creator, because creator somewhere is like a solopreneur.
Sure.
They're like trying to do multiple things by themselves. They're like their own salespeople, their own marketing, right? But I'm talking mostly from like a creative professional, like people who used to use like Adobe Photoshop, who were like the brand creatives of other professionals. Sure. So like people who are like just their expertise is in building thumbnails and decks and that. So I'll probably like rephrase this and like, get your perspective again. When the image model launched, it was perceived very differently by people who are like merely consumers, who were not creative, versus people who were creative professionals, because somewhere it sort of felt like it's threatening their moat. And people who were non-creatives, they were like, oh wow, like I couldn't have done this by myself. There was no way I could do it. Like even something as simple as like, building a cute birthday card.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that by yourself unless like you're professionally trained to like use a tool like Canva or Figma. But now you can do it really well with a very vague prompt as well. So that user consumer side perceived the models very differently, but there were pushbacks from pure creative teams whose bread and butter is building these images.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Like, how did you see them perceiving it differently, and how would you say is your differentiator compared to like how creative professionals are using it?
Yeah, so first of all, I have a lot of respect for creative professionals, because I'm not one. It's a very hard job to do, and I don't think I'm qualified to do it, and really respect all the work that they put in. I think that the question you're asking is not just true of images, but is true of AI in general, right? And this concept of, as the cost of building something and the amount of time it takes to build something goes down, what is the impact it has? And we talk about something like internally, and this word has been used a lot in tech industry, of like Jevons paradox. And the idea is basically the expectation we have is that as these changes happen, it reduces the amount of people you want to do these things. But what we have learned in history again and again is anytime we've had one of these changes, it has actually increased the demand for that role, right? So it is I think we asked this about like coding agents last year too, and we've seen people wanting more and more engineers.
Yeah.
So I think it's too early to say, right? And I don't profess to be an expert of how I think these trends are going to play out. But my hope is that we see the same thing, and we actually want this to be a tool that more and more of these creative professionals use, and then there should be more and more creative professionals because now they can create more output.
Can I actually do a big plus one to that? Because I would say since all of these AI tools started popping up, the number of my friends who would reach out to me and be like, hey dude, how do I become a creator?
Yeah.
I started this when I had my full-time job. I still have my job. And this is just like, a side hustle for me, whatever I'm doing on social platforms. And earlier it used to like, I've been doing LinkedIn content creation for like over 10 years now. For everyone around me, it used to feel that, hey, like this is your weekend job or this is your 5 to 9. But over the years, I've just been able to optimize for all the steps of the process because of these AI tools. And now there is a huge influx of people who want to be creators, who want to build their visibility, who want to have their personal brand. And I hear this all the time, even from my video editors. They're like, dude, the number of people who reach out to me now that they want a video editor is insane.
That's cool.
So
That's awesome.
that's like the same thing, right? Like you have really highly capable AI tools, but that also increases the economy size and like the market share of what you can do with these tools.
Exactly.
Which is pretty crazy. And while we were talking about that, it did pick up my brand colors.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool.
Did you tell it to fix the aspect ratio as well or no?
I did, but I don't know if it did.
It did get wider, I think.
It made it wider, but it's still not the exact same aspect ratio for the YouTube banner.
Okay, cool. This is good feedback we can take.
Yeah, I can be your guinea pig.
Oh, great. Awesome.
I test this a lot. But this is super cool. This is really, really cool. And I feel one of the other interesting things that I like about your product is like the entire ecosystem, right? Like I was telling you, I use Atlas a lot. And still I feel a very, very underrated tool. I even like recorded a full YouTube video explaining everything that I do on Atlas, including the browser use and everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like the ecosystem of tools playing with each other is something which makes it very seamless, because exactly here I didn't have to tell it that these are my brand colors. I was like, just go look up my brand colors, and it pulls that from the memory, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm just thinking what else could I ask.
I think on that note, just by the way, like I think it's there's the ecosystem within ChatGPT, and then there's the ecosystem with outside ChatGPT. So like what Alex and team has done a fantastic job of is like pulling from memory, reasoning, tools, and all these things.
Yeah.
But as you said, we have a pretty awesome ChatGPT apps ecosystem where any developer creator can create an app. So some of the brands that you mentioned, Canva, Figma, etc., have
It's
an app.
all integrated.
And actually, a lot of my workflow with using image generation has been in the context of also using these other tools. So you mentioned the fact that like you use Codex and you create a skill. Well, we have an MCP connector for Figma now, and so often when I want to have an image that I'm creating and then share it for others to collaborate, I start with giving a prompt, then being like, okay, use the Figma MCP connector, create a new file, share it in this workspace, and then there's all the designers on my team can then access and collaborate. So I think that's like, I think that there's other things that we built on top of the model, which hopefully should enable that as well.
This is pretty cool. Any last thoughts that you want to talk about?
We can talk about, we can either talk about reception internationally, we can talk about...
Oh yeah, let's do that. Should we keep that as a closing question?
Yeah, or is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not particularly.
Okay, so I'll probably use that as a closing question. So Abhi, Alex, you spoke about so many different use cases. I told you a lot about mine. I'm curious to ask you, because you mentioned this in East Asia, you saw a lot of like infographic requirements. I'm curious to see what are the different kinds of use cases that you see from different parts of the world. Let's say India.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the funnest parts of the job here is putting out something into the world and seeing the incredible diverse ways that people use it. And every time we're surprised and not knowing where it's going to go. Some of the things that we've seen specifically in India is, I think, what has been very interesting is people bringing elements of Indian culture and heritage into the image that they want to make. So they'll upload a photo of themselves and put it into a Bollywood poster or put it into an Indian ethnic outfit. And that has been like an interesting angle there. In Latin America, we've seen a big trend of people putting themselves in settings where they want to be. So that I want to be in a sports stadium. That's like a trend that's going viral right now. In Japan and East Asia, it has been this infographic trend. And then the other thing that has been interesting is that when we were there for research a few weeks ago in Tokyo, a lot of people, I think in East Asia, have a very high creative bar. And so they had this interesting trend of drawing lines around an image. And that was something we had not seen beforehand. So I think like one of the coolest parts of this job is just putting it out there. You kind of have like the experiment you're putting out to the world and seeing how people embrace it. But I will have to say, like, what the growth of the image and model, especially in East Asia and India, has been absolutely stunning. The amount of new people we've gotten to come into the world and experience AI. And this was true with our first launch we had a year ago, which was like a breakout movement for, I think, ChatGPT in India, and it has continued since then.
As one final thing, I would love to know this from you. Both of you have been here since like the first model came out. What would you say is like the biggest differentiator in the Model 2 compared to Model 1, and where do you see this trend going?
I mean, I think there are many aspects we improved. As we have said, there's the thinking. There's I think a lot of amazing capabilities both in infographics and photorealism. I think the outputs just look a lot more natural compared to before. In V1, I think everything looked a bit fake, and now I think a lot of things seem like basically usable. I think like again, it's like maybe just we will keep pushing this from like 50% to 100%, and things will just be right on the first try.
For me, on top of all the things that Alex mentioned, I think one, I think the research team has done an amazing job with multilingual text rendering, and I think this is something that we saw was a big pain point for users around the world, especially in Asia, that they wanted to create all these assets with using characters from Indian languages or Asian languages, and it would just be really messy. It would like mix up images. You're laughing. Maybe you've had some experience with something like this. And I think that the research team really focused on hill climbing on that, and we really focused on improving. And now it's pretty stunning. Like we were, we had a dinner with someone recently, and we showed this like image that we have of a izakaya menu that was on our ChatGPT image generation blog. And he's a person from Japan, has spent all his life in Japan. And he looked at it and he was like, wow, that is like nearly perfect. And that was like, wow, that's like big praise for me, for someone who like thinks about that. So I think it's one. I think another element was just like the photorealism. As Alex was saying, like a lot of the images in the first generation or two of the model were clearly it was very fun, but it was clearly not something that people felt was like real life. It was very AI. And so an example is like in the past, if you would ask it to create a street image of India, it would create like an extremely clean, not crowded street, right? And that is something that unfortunately is like not representative of the reality. And now if you tell it, we were testing out with the research team for an image that we put on the blog, make an image of of Hyderabad with like different street signs in different languages, and it felt like, wow, you were actually at the Charminar. So that I think is like another big game changer that I think the team did an amazing job.
And I think also another thing is the aspect ratios. So in V1 1.5, it was only limited to 3 aspect ratios. That's 2:3, 3:2, and 1:1. And now it's actually can be any pixel number. Like if you use the API, which I don't think is actually something quite special.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So on the API, you could tell it like any ratio, and it would be able to do it.
Yes, it should be like actually up to like any pixel, and up to 3:1, 1:3.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool. I mean, one of my favorite use cases has been like multi-image rendering in same prompt, and that like character consistency is insane. I was laughing because when you were talking about languages, I wanted to test it out in like a few different languages. I created my AI with Ash Comic, like that version in English, and I just said, can you translate this whole thing to Tamil? And it just did perfectly. I can't read Tamil, but I just like sent it over to my mom, and my mom is like, that's actually perfect. it didn't like literally translate things, but it actually put things in context, and like the way people talk is how it did the translation, which is pretty cool and was very very fast that it did. I've been using the image one as well, and the latency used to be a challenge, but
Yeah.
now the speed at which it's creating is insane.
So yeah, I do want to say that there's like thinking and instant, right? And the instant is much faster, but thinking is better at things like this translation.
Just close. I think the real metric of success is when your mom says that it's really good. So
It's
we'll
really
take
good,
we'll
yeah.
take the fact that your mom approved our model as like the right eval for
Yeah,
us.
I can now create like Tamil version of AI with Dash comics for her.
Cool. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Abhi. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining me here. I'm sure we'll like catch up again to like pick your brain on more things I can do with Images 2.0. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.